Hello, everyone. Thanks for your interest in my talk. The question I will be addressing in this talk is the very naive question, what is a gift? It's a question which has not been addressed before, and is, of course, is surprising, because gifts are fundamental economic phenomena. And indeed, economists have made a lot of work on gift. They have dedicated a lot of effort on addressing the many questions, many various kind of questions regarding gifts, among which, why do people make gifts instead of spending money on themselves, for example, or whether public spending dissuade private gifts. Economists have also been interested in how Christmas gifts destroy, according to their data, up to 30% value of the value of gifts. This is because the beneficiary of Christmas gift will typically say that he would not himself give more than 70% of the exchange of the economic value of the price of the goods she's just been gifted. Economists have therefore paid attention to gift, but they have not been interested in the question, what is a gift? And it is that question which I'm addressing in that talk. Let us first look at the terms used in the literature to refer to gifts. Gifts are in the literature referred to as gifts, of course, but also with a wide variety of terms, among which pro-social behavior, donation, an act of beneficence, an altruistic gift or gift giving, a philanthropic act, a benefit, giving alms, alms giving, charity giving, or an altruistic transfer. This list of words already point to a metaphysical ambivalence regarding what a gift is. Some of these terms may convey the idea that a gift is a good, first and foremost a good that is being gifted. And some other terms, pro-social behavior, for example, or when gift is described as almsgiving, giving, these terms expresses or may indicates the idea that a gift is first and foremost an act by which a good is gifted. Let us pay more attention to the distinction I've just been referred to between, on the one hand, a good or a thing, as you may want to call it, and on the other hand, an act. A good is an entity which is such that it endures self-identically through time, although it is so is a good defined conventionally, even is always controversially, but I will neglect the controversies here. I will assume that Barry Smith, Peter Simons, and Melia right when they describe a good as an entity which endures self-identically through time, or which it is present in its entirety at each moment of its existence, existing as numerically one and the same at different times. Think of a stone falling. There's always the same stone which is falling and displaying the same through time condition, as I refer to it. A good or a thing has a capacity to float free from the person or persons who were involved in their creation, and thus to live lives of their own, on Barry Smith's words. And I will refer to that capacity as a creator-independent condition of goods or things. A good can be owned, possessed, a condition I refer to as the ownership condition, and finally a good is something that be piled up, accumulated. Let us refer to the storing condition of good. Contrast good now with act. An act is an entity which is such that it takes up time. An act occurs at a certain time or goes over in a certain interval. This is a going through time condition of act. An act persists by having different stages at different times. Its phases are its parts, as David Wiggins say. This is a phase as part condition of acts, or also sometimes dubbed as occurrence. An act finally can be interrupted, deferred, suspended, delayed, but also sorted in a way things cannot be. An act can be rapid or regular, staccato or steady, we can say. This is the pace condition of act or occurrence. In light of the distinction I've just presented, a gift can be, there are two conflicting views of gifts can be distinguished. The first view, let us call it the thing-minded view of gift, will say that typically a gift always consists in both an act and a thing, an act of gifting, and a thing that is gifted. But the act of gifting is an event, and events depends on its participants, the gifter, the giftee, and of course the gift, the good that is gifted. And so the thing-minded view of gift, the advocate of the thing-minded view, would typically say that there is no gifting without a gift. On the other hand, the act-minded view of gift will reply that nothing could be gift-given were it not for the performance of some act by which that thing is gift-given. No gift without a gifting, he will reply. So who is right? I think this is a question that will underlie my, I'll be addressing in this talk. Which is a correct view between the two. Now in order to, I will proceed, in order to answer that question, I will first proceed by looking at what may be referred to as, what may be considered as a standard view. It's not really a view, because it's not to be defined to be a full-blown view. So we may say it's a standard objection, a widely shared assumption about what a gift is. It's a sort of assumption which scholars in the science of gifting rely on when they study gifts. If A gives a good X to B, then it always is the case that A transfers X to B. That definition is prevalent, widely prevalent, and we may already specify that it is widely encompassing, supposed to be or meant to be widely encompassing. For example, the entities A and B could either be a person, a biological person like you and me, but it could also be a group, residents of villages, alumni of a university, blood donors, but it could also be an institution, a private foundation, a charity organization. And the good X in that definition is also supposed to be a generic notion. The good or a gift, what is gifted, the thing that is the entity that is gifting, may either be a financial good, like a sum of money, a microcredit loan, or it could be material good, mosquito-nets, pharmaceuticals, foods, a biological good, like a kidney, a little blood, or an intangible good, and a pet service, because we're interested in gift, not in remunerated gift service, therefore, like a free lesson of English or surgery performed on someone without the beneficiary of the surgery having to pay for it. Now, the standard view has not been typically in literature is discussed, what is discussed about the standard view is two qualifications put forth regarding the notion of transfer. The transfer that pertains to gift needs to be both unilateral in contrast to trades, in contrast to the transfers that are relevant to trades, which are bilateral or mutual. And the transfer of a gift is to be voluntary in contrast to the transfer that the state forces on people having a certain income. So a gift is not something that A can be forced to transfer to B, and so therefore taxes, sometimes dubbed as public gifts, are not gifts. In this talk, I would like to focus on a notion that is never, to my knowledge, focused in the literature, which is the notion of transfer. So what is a transfer? Well, here is one plausible forthcoming definition of what a transfer is. X is transferred from A to B in between T0 and T1 if and only if at T0, X entirely belongs to A, and at T1, X entirely belongs to B. The definition puts two constraints on transferable entities. First, a transferable entity can be exclusively owned by A or B, by the entity who owns it, and also it endures over time during the transfer. The same X that was A is now B's. Now, the standard definition of gift assume, therefore, that a giftable is a thing, because you would have recognized behind those two constraints features which I've presented before as pertaining to things, to continuance, to goods. What I'm going to show now is that there are giftable goods which are not transferable. And in light of the description of those non-transferable goods, I will conclude and I will defend the view that the standard view of gift is too restricted. Let us first look at the class of intangible goods. Intangible goods are goods which in the literature, in the economic literature, refer to services. Services are dubbed intangible goods, and what they truly are, according to Peter Hill, acts done for someone else with a view of changing her condition. Examples of intangible goods: giving a lesson of English, performing surgery for sarcoma, for example, or constructing a well in an African village. Now, intangible goods or services may either be paid or non-paid or free, and voluntary, typically the intangible goods that we're interested in this talk, may be defined as unpaid acts done for someone else with a view of changing her condition, and unpaid here means that that the act is done without receiving anything in exchange. So easy to plug. Intangible goods or volunteering are easy to plug into the notion of intangible goods. We just have to specify the lesson of English is given for free. To apply the standard view of gifts to volunteering, the latter is commonly described as the transfer time, the supply of labor work, the provision of intangible wealth. I've extracted those wordings from the literature. So volunteering is just taken to be a subcategory of a transferable in the literature. But the objection is that a service or an intangible goods, if you want, displays none of the features of transperables qua things. They have no ownership condition. A service, a lesson of English is typically not something that you can have. It has no storing condition. A lesson of English is not something that can be piled up, accumulated, stored. It has no creator dependency condition. It's not something that can be separated from whoever gives it, or rather does it. Here, the economist's thing-minded formulation is interesting to note. The economist defined a service as a good whose production coincides with its consumption, tries to accommodate services within the realm of goods by actually describing it as such. But a service doesn't have the same through condition of bona fide goods. It doesn't persist through time, even if it does take up time to perform a service, and the outcome of the service may last, but the service can certainly be interrupted or delayed. Intangible goods or services are things, I hope now it becomes clear, that can be done, and they are, truly speaking, they are fundamentally, more correctly described as occurrent acts. Let us turn now to the category of non-depletable goods. Non-depletable goods, they are defined in the literature, are goods such as the fact that they are owned by some agent does not entail that there is a lesser amount of them available to other agents. Knowledge. Think of a joke. If you share a joke with someone, you still know the joke, you still have it for yourself, and after having told it to someone else. Light, the same goes for light, heat, smell, silence, music, and a virus. Now, non-depletable goods has no ownership conditions, and this is the reason why they are not goods, bona fide goods. Take knowledge transfer. Knowledge, something that cannot be truly speaking transfer, even though in the literature it's often said that teaching amounts to the transfer of knowledge. But teaching involves no transfer, strictly speaking. If A teaches English to B, A has not lost any of her knowledge of English once she has studied to B, because A and B has this piece of knowledge entirely, and after B has presumably gifted it to B. So the reply, one may reply here, and it would be typically the reply of a friend of the thing-minded view of gift. He would reply that the notion of transfer in the standard definition refers to transfer, strictly speaking, but also to transmissions. And transmissions pertain to non-depletable goods. So X is transmitted from A to B in between T0 and T1 if and only if at E0 X entirely belongs to A. At T1 X entirely belongs to both A and B. But as a counter objection, the act-minded advocate of the act-minded view advocate of gift would say that the act-minded view needs not enlarge, as the thing-minded advocates does, need not enlarge the class of gifted by an ad hoc accommodation of transmittable. Here is rather how the act-minded view approaches non-depletable goods. He would say knowledge, non-depletable good. For A to teach English to B, A needs to typically talks to B about the rule that govern the writing or speaking of English. A needs to ask B whether he has understood how those rules apply, and A needs to verify whether B remembers those rules, etc., etc. You're going to go on with it. What you believe to be teaching should ideally amount to. Now, teaching is not knowledge transfer, according to the description I've just given, but rather is a performance of various acts. It takes up time to talk to someone about a certain subject matter. A can verify whether B has integrated the rule. You can verify it quickly, not quickly. A can be reinterpreted while teaching B English, and so forth. Abstract goods is another category of giftable goods which are not transferable, strictly speaking. Abstract goods is a term I have chosen to refer to ownership. Ownership is truly what is transferred when a gift is made according to refined view of what a gift is. So someone like Drucker Commons would correct the standard definition or standard assumption by saying that when someone says that A transfers X to B, what that person truly is saying is that A transfers the ownership of X to B. And the shortcut terminology is benign, is a benign shortcut, because an abstract good, ownership, is a good, is a bona fide good. Ownership is something that can be had. It remains self-identical through time. The same ownership that is A is now B's, and it can be piled up. Surely A and B may have several ownerships. So the standard view can easily be rephrased, would one may believe, so that it accommodates abstract goods. But against that, such an attempt to accommodate abstract goods within the realm of transferables, one may say that abstract goods has no creator independency. My ownership of my pen cannot free float from anyone. When I give my ownership, it doesn't jump and stay up in the air between me and my beneficiary and the person to whom I'm transferring such an ownership, as my pen can if I handle it to you. An abstract good, again, an ownership has no ownership condition, because an abstract good is itself an ownership condition. So when you say that A has the ownership of X, what you're strictly speaking is something that is redundant. A has the ownership of X is redundant, for A owns. Means, I mean, a true translation, it owns the ownership of X and doesn't mean anything. Ownership is something that can be owned itself. Ownership is owning. So now that leaves us with the question, what is an abstract good? What is ownership? Now the act-minded view would come up with the following answer to that question. A's ownership of X is not a good, not a thing, let alone an act. It's a relation. It's a relation, a type of relation between A and X. And I will not further specify the nature of that relation. A's ownership, the point I want to make is that A's ownership of X authorizes A to act on X in a variety of ways. If A owns X, A has the authorization to use X, to dump X, to destroy X, to sell X, or to give X. And we may say that ownership grounds or gift giving, and this would be the relationship between ownership on the one hand and gift giving on the other. Non-durable goods are another class of giftable, albeit non-transferable goods. Non-durable goods are goods which Albert Hirschman defines as goods which vanish once you have taken them in without leaving corporeal shape. Foodstuff, pharmaceutical, tubes, soap, cosmetics, candles. These are the true consumables, according to Hirschman. The standard view is committed to exclude non-durable goods from giftable. And that is bad, of course, because surely you can give a candle to someone. Why? Because if a gift always involves a transfer, the essence that a gift is made when that which is transferred, X, belongs to B. But if X is a non-durable good, something meant to be consumed, only when X is entirely consumed, not merely had on, would X be fully, completely gifted. That's the point I want to make. So whoever endorses the standard view is committed to neglect that final stage, the stage whereby X is consumed, destroyed, which means that again, leaving no corporeal behind. Durable goods are also goods which would be incorrectly neglected if we had with the on the standard view of gifts. Durable goods are goods whose raison d'être is to be used. Very simple definition. Think of shelter for the homeless, clothes, Wi-Fi, wells, mosquito nest, cars, washing machines. They may distinguish between those who are continuously used. Think of your clothes, which are almost continuously used, and so they are used at intervals, more or less long intervals. The point is that durable goods are also excluded and gifted by the standard view because these are goods that are enjoyed not in virtue of being had, as a standard view has it, but in virtue of being used. The end point of gifting a mosquito nest to be is be using it, not to be owning it. Not only is it crucial that mosquito nests are used, not merely had, it needs to be they need to be adequately used, not just to catch fish, for example. And so let me recap as a conclusion, the way to conclude my talk, that I've shown that the thing-minded view is that the standard view thing-minded, the thing-minded view is too restricted because it fails to accommodate many non-transferable goods. I've attempted to support this act-minded view if the support I've given is correct. The gifting would be more basic than the gifted good, and also I've tried to show that terms can be misleading. Almsgiving is a better wording of what's going on when a gift is made than the giving of alms. Thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to your comments, objections, observations, questions.